Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This is being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Motherland, Fort Salem, Season 1, Episode 5. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So obviously, we're starting off with, it got introduced last episode that Abigail's cousin is getting married and she needs to bring her whole unit with her, which obviously there's some contention amongst that because first and foremost you have Rael being like, well, I want to bring Scylla but with me, but it's like, nah, you can't. It's almost kind of like, why? Because it's like, this is kind of our unit thing. We got to work on us. Like, the dean of War College is going to be there. We need to make the best impression. More so it's about her than them, because it's like she needs them on their stuff, because she's like, oh, maybe I should also invite Gary. I'm curious, did Abigail know ahead of time? Like, hence why she was kind of like sick. Like, she kept telling her, like, oh, you need to meet other guys, yada, yada, yada. It makes me wonder, does she already know? Because she is part of the High Atlantic Society and stuff like that. So does she already know, and that's what she was trying to warn? Well, let's skip around it. Sadly, we end up finding out Garrett's engaged. But I don't know whether that's something, because she's like, yeah, you see that sash she's wearing? He's engaged. So either she found out at the party along with everyone else, or she just already knew, and that's why she was like, yeah, she didn't think it was going to become serious. She thought, like, oh, you just have your fun and move on. But, like, for Tally, it's like, for one, there's a special attachment, because, for one, she actually fell for him, and obviously it's at a time where, like, feelings they're heightened just because of everything with the Beltane and everything. But also, it's like, this is probably, like, her first love. It's also the guy who took her virginity. Like, I mean, obviously, like, some people can separate, like, the person they lost their virginity to. Like, you can separate that. Sometimes I'm like, I have no special attachment to the person I lost their virginity to. For some people, it means a lot, especially if you were enthralled, if you were in love with them already. Like, you're already going to associate that, like, oh, I was in love with someone and I gave my first time to them, and it's like, oh, that kind of, there can never be an us, so that turns into a whole complicated thing for Tally in the episode. I mean, like, well, what I'm getting at, too, it's like, more so than anything, Abigail's mainly doing it for herself, because she wants to prove herself, because sadly she ends up quickly learning, like, because, like, she's stressing the entire time, trying to put it up a good front with the dean, but the dean's like, yeah, you're in. She's like, what? No, don't you want to know more about me? It's like, no. Like, the fact of the matter is, your mom has done this, she's done that. Like, we're going to let you in even if you kind of sleptwalk your way in. And that hurt Abigail, because it's like, wait, I don't even get to get in by my own name. It's like I don't get in as Abigail. I get in as Petra Bellweather's daughter. Like, that's the thing. Like, her last name matters most than anything. And I guess, once again, that's why she strives so hard, because she wants to prove herself, because she has such a legacy and a name to live up to, a mother to live up to. And it's like, for her, it's like, nothing I ever did, it was good enough, probably in her mother's eyes, but also to herself. Like, she doesn't have a lot of confidence in herself, even though she presents herself like this case. Like, it's because she's just really like, oh, I'm good, I'm right, Mom, I did good, right, Mom? Like, she's just trying to, like, please her mom, so she doesn't have the most altruistic reason of like, oh, I'm helping out you guys. It's like, no, I need you guys to not look like slouches, because I need you guys to make me look better, because the better you guys look, the better I look. It's kind of what that comes down to, which is ironic, because she ends up calling her mom out for it. It's like, right, because, like, you made all these favors for me, because her mom's like, no, I've done all this for you, so you have the best chance. And she's like, no, so that you can make yourself look better, which is like, once again, the irony behind it, because you're literally using Tally and Rael for the exact same reason. Like, pot calling the kettle black, so it's interesting, because her cousin tried to give her the lowdown, just be like, don't even stress it, cuz, like, you'll get in, like, you're a bellwether. And it's kind of like, even she was saying this line jokingly, but basically she was like, you need to kind of stop focusing so much on your privilege and kind of help me, like, get into my wedding dress and stuff like that. It's like, because she is from a privileged family, it's like, you have a lot of opportunities that wouldn't, like, no one else, not a lot of people will get, like, that opportunity to, like, hand it to them like that. And that's what pisses Abigail off. It's like, no, I'm willing to fight and strive, especially because she proves, like, no, I'm a bellwether and I'm better. But it's like, right, I'm only getting it not because of how good I am, but it's because of my last name, because of who my mother is. Like, that's also got to sting the most, because she does have, like, some level of resentment towards her mom, just because of the way her mom treats her and the way her mom pushes her. And it's like, for what? for what was I pushing myself for if it's just going to be like, oh, I'm getting in, not just by as a bellwether, but getting in because I'm your daughter. Like I said, I think that element stings just a little bit more than just it being a bellwether thing. It's because of who your mom is. It's like, yeah, because she's like, not because like, oh, the long lineage of bellwether women is the reason why we're getting you into college. It's like, nah, because of what your mom done. Your mom, and it's like, oh, that I think makes the knife go in just a little bit deeper. Well, might even go even deeper, rather than just a little bit. It might go like all the way. The knife might go all the way in because of that. So it's just an interesting development on that front. I was wondering what was going to happen with Scylla because she wasn't invited, and Rael was even saying like, yeah, if you don't like let her come, I won't. But she's the one to convince Rael is like, yeah, go, like, you don't want to ruin things with Abigail. It's like, I'm sure, and she was kind of saying like, yeah, she might change her mind, and Rael was like, I don't see that happening. So that's why I was wondering like the marking she drew on Rael's hand. I was like, is that gonna like once her and Abigail touch or something? I was like, is that gonna like make it so that I'm able to hijack my way in here or something like that? Like I thought like she was gonna like take control of Abby's mind and kind of change her mind or something. Like I was like, what was that going to do? Maybe it legitimately was like, let me keep an eye on you, or at the very least have a connection to you in some shape or form. I'm like, I have no idea what that's all about. So that's kind of an interesting development on that front. But I was just so curious about it. But it's obviously that more heartfelt stuff where it's just like Rael is just kind of all about. It's like, yeah, this, especially when they're at the wedding and everything, introducing her. It's like, yeah, this is my guest and eventually my girlfriend and everything, because she was in front of Anacostia and she was kind of like, yeah, she wasn't on the guest list or whatever. But it's like, yeah, but if you got issues, she was me. This is my girlfriend. Anacostia is kind of like, because Celia's like, yeah, because of me. I did it against Scylla. I said Scylla was kind of like, she's gotten better because of me. It's like, no, she's got gifts of her own. She doesn't need you. You should end things sooner or later, or I'm going to make your life heaven. And she's like, yes, ma'am. It's like, because a complicated thing, and it's something I haven't really pointed out, but the complicated thing is that Scylla does actually have a thing for Rael. Like, it isn't just like, this is my mission. It started off that way, but she's actually legitimately fallen for her, because it's like, because some of the vulnerability she's had, it might not just been fake. She might have actually been opening up and actually being vulnerable with her, and that probably put her in a position where it's like, right, I was supposed to be using you, but now I'm actually kind of falling for you. Something else I also thought about, because I threw out all the series the last 2 episodes about like, oh, like the real Scylla and everything. They're like the face we've seen before, like, can we still, like, I was wondering, like, what this episode made me think, like, what if the reason why Porter knew her face is Scylla like this? Because I was thinking like, oh, she took the real Scylla's face. Another thought that was crossing my mind. I can't let this go because I need to know which it is. But like I've thrown out like these different theories about like what that is. Either like she took Scylla, the real Scylla's like face and memories and stuff like that, or this is the face she used when she got close to Porter and she's still using that identity. So there's that. But then another part of me is like, what if this is actually what she looks like? The face that we saw before when she puts this face on, and when she, the one she burnt off, like in the first episode, and then the one that was underneath, like when she was driving, that particular face, I was always been under the assumption that's been her real face. But as I know, there's layers to like this thing. You can wear a face upon a face. So my initial thought is, what if what I've been assuming is her real face the entire time actually is her face? Maybe that's another mask, a mask underneath a mask. So what if the face she wears as Scylla is actually her real face? Like, what if that's the case? I don't know. Like, I've been under that assumption because, like, the Porter thing kind of makes me lean more towards that direction. So it kind of coincides a little bit with the theory of, like, yeah, that's the face she had when she met Porter and stuff like that. Not that there's actually a Scylla that she just stole that face from and all that knowledge from. Like I said, I could be mistaken. It's just I keep throwing that out there because like my mind keeps changing with every episode, being like, maybe this is actually what it is. So we'll have to find out because it's still like fully unclear if like the other face is her real face or whether the face she's using on Scylla is actually her real face. Regardless, I thought it was interesting that she just kind of like got into the wedding. I was like, especially because Abigail was like, how did you get here? She was able to kind of avoid answering that, but I'm surprised no one's like, how did you get here? Because even Anacostia was kind of like, yeah, like, yeah, I guess they took it as just like, oh, you crashing the wedding, so they just kind of leave it at that, like, oh, that's crappy on your part. At least Acostia and Abigail and Tally and even Rael. I mean, because it's like, even being like, oh, how did you get here? But she was able to kind of avoid the question, but like, oh, let's just have fun. And so she was able to kind of skip around that, so. But obviously, Abigail introducing her unit to, like, you know, everyone else, you know, and she's got to, you know, meet the right people, shake hands. So, like, even throughout the entire party, she's meeting with people like, oh, hey, hi, are you good? Having fun? Is everything great? You know, because she's trying to put her face out there, you know, kind of associate, you know. So, obviously, she's a little, like, headstrong and just kind of, like, on edge with this whole thing. So, like, Tally and, Rael and even, you know, Scylla are having fun and just kind of enjoying stuff, and it's just like, yeah, just kind of it just makes her more annoyed because she's got to be at the top of her game and they're all kind of slacking a little bit. But then once again, it just adds more insult to injury when it's like, oh, you're stressing about nothing because you don't matter. Your last name matters and your mom matters, but you don't matter, you know. So that's going to leave you with a complex, I'm sure. She already has one, I'm sure, and I'm sure this just worsens and deepens it, you know? I do wonder on some level, does her mom actually believe that she is legitimately she doing everything? Yes, it could come off like it's benefiting her and she doesn't always show it, but I think on some level it is a thing of her mom really does love her and is just trying to present her the best opportunity in life because she wants the best for her daughter. But you can also see where Abigail can come off seeing like, oh, it's more about making you look good, which once again, irony. But I think in her own way, it's her mom's way of showing love because she does care about her daughter. She wants the best of her for her. She just doesn't always properly show it. It's just kind of how I chalk it up. But what's also interesting too about like this whole conversation about these bindings and stuff like that, it does seem like it doesn't mean as much. It is a very old school tradition, but it seems like that's all it is, because it's like, because even Abigail's asking her cousin like, can you really spend like 5 years with just like some guy like giving away your beauty and youth? It's like, yeah, but that's more so for them. And she's like, no, it's not even going to be like that. So it does seem like it's more of an arranged marriage thing, or at the very least, she's so free-spirited. She's like, yeah, we'll do this for a little bit, which is also interesting because it's not like a official wedding, because these are witch weddings, so I think they're a little different. But it's like, yeah, we're going to be bound to each other for like 5 years, have a kid, and that'll be about it. But it's like, I guess after that 5 years, you can kind of go do whatever you want to, which is interesting. I'm like, oh. It's not like a civilian marriage, I guess, in this sense, where it's just like, yeah, it's till death do us part, or until you just get divorced. Is there a means of just actually getting like a witch divorce? I'm curious, like, is it a thing of like you can have as many, like, could you have a harem kind of situation going on, like more than one person? I don't know. I mean, because I think that also kind of coincides with, you know, Abigail's whole thing with, like, the Beltrain situation, where it's like, oh, yeah, 2 dudes, just because it's like, no, I'm not ever going to settle down for just one person. Like, I can never just spend, like, years, not the rest of my life, years with just some one dude. It's like, no, like, I'm, you know, once again, very free-spirited in that regard. I just think that's so fascinating. Little messed up, because it's like, right, some of us out here living a single life and you kind of doubling up like it's nothing. It's like, nah, it's cool, no, I'm fine. I'm not feeling pathetic or anything in any shape or form. Like, oh, I kind of have no one and no one at all, and oh, here you are, 2 people. Cool. That's awesome. And yes, I am saying that jokingly. Yes, I am. It's a whole thing. Nevertheless, I was about to go on a huge tangent. Never mind. What I thought was incredible was the Tally situation, where it's like, she was, you know, obviously in the bathroom, and she tried to hide because she doesn't want anyone to see that she's crying, because she was like, no, I don't want anyone to see me like this. And then she overhears and sees Scylla with the balloon. I'm like, oh, snap. Because like last episode was about covering her tracks, and it's like, oh, she almost got busted. This episode, she got straight up busted. I was like, yo. And it was like, yo, drop her off at that location at 6. And it's like, cool, you want me to wait with her? And it was like, drop her off no more questions, because she wanted to stick with her, because she was like she wanted to be there with her. So it's like, yeah, I could be there, like, just make sure that she's just like, I want to make sure that, you know, Rael's going to be safe, but also, like, she's like, probably like in that moment, she's probably going to be like, yeah, we're both going to get out. I don't know whether that's supposed to be a situation where, like, she was supposed to go back to, like, life at, like, Fort Salem, because they still need their inside person. They've got Rael, but they still need her in some shape or form. I don't know. Once again, Acostia saying, like, oh, she's got gifts. I do believe that's why Scylla kind of got close to her anyway. She's making such a point to be like, oh, Acostia said, did you have gifts? She's like, Risk? No, she didn't. There's no way she actually believes that. It's like, yeah. And once again, that has to explain why the spree has such an interest in her. I have been thinking for a little bit, like, are we going to find out her mom's involved? Like, her mom didn't die, that she faked her death, and she's actually part of the spree, or maybe she had some connection to the spree. Because, like, when you look at their family lineage, it does seem like her mother had a sibling or something like that. Because, like, because that person doesn't have a line, so it might be an aunt or uncle. Like, I would assume an aunt she had that died, or, you know, maybe at a young age, maybe. Once again, I don't fully understand, like, whether that, like I said, whether or not that situation represents everyone in your family who's been a part of that, who, you know, answered the call or not, or whether there's a little more complexity to it. Whatever the case may be, it does seem like she might have had an aunt. Whether that aunt's still alive or not, it doesn't seem like it, because that conversation doesn't come up. So she might have died before Rael was born. So once again, I brought up, like, I think she's in a somewhat similar situation to Talon, regardless. Nevertheless, circling back to it, Tally, like, overhears all that, and is like, oh boy, and she tells Acostia, like, I saw a balloon, I think Scylla is spree, and it's like, oh boy, I was, you know, and obviously it's like, oh, you know, it's like they're looking for Abigail, which Abigail's looking for her cousin. Obviously, Tally's also trying to find Rael, and ultimately she does, but, like, obviously, like, at the time, like, everything was going crazy because Abigail came across her cousin's dead body. That was gnarly, because it's like, when you look at that situation, it's like, oh, that's not just like a slit. I mean, maybe that's just any slit throat, but I was like, ugh. They showed you, like, if you looked, you could definitely see, like, how much of her neck was left before her head was, like, before she was completely. It's like, that looked almost like 75% like they decapitated her, like, at least 60%. I was like, that's gnarly, dude. And that's sad, that because Abigail was just having that conversation with her, and obviously she gets attacked. I guess they, like, either set up some circumstances or something using their vocals to basically block it. Oh, because at first it seemed like they attacked Abigail in her throat so she couldn't. It's like, you know, so it kind of turns into a hand-to-hand combat, but she's up against two people, and she's outmatched. I mean, to be fair, she's still in basic training, so it's not like she's the most well-equipped person. Luckily, her mom tracks her down, goes in there, but before her mom tries to use her voice but can't. So, like, they put up some kind of field or something with their own voices, or either someone in the general area is, maybe it was everything that was going outside prevented her from using her voice, so they couldn't use their magic, so they kind of had to go hand to hand. Granted, Abigail pulled that knife out of herself, slashed up that other person, and her mom put in the work, kicked the dude outside the hallway, and they set themselves on fire. Both of them kind of used their wind strike to kind of send them out the window, and they got to get sucked up by, like, the forming storms outside. Her mom kind of touches her, and you kind of hear the heart and everything, so I don't know whether it's her mom just trying to calm her down, trying to fix her up a little bit, but it's like, to see Abigail like that, it's like, you know, you had to fight for your life, and the fact is, your cousin's dead, and you saw her like that, that's got to be rough. Obviously, you know, because I was wondering whether those balloons were really the real deal, like, they were filled, because it's like, why so many? I mean, granted, I guess it's like, just in case they do something with one, but it seemed like more like a keep them distracted type of thing of, like, right, there's all these balloons, so let me, like, keep them focused on that rather than what's going on. I wonder, is there a reason why they picked her cousin? It might just be like, hey, she was the bride-to-be, and, like, just to disrupt this union, just to state our point, we killed her. Like, maybe it's like, given the opportunity, they only had enough time to kill her, but maybe they would have killed other people as well, because there's a lot of high-profile people there. So the balloons could have just been, like, a distraction, or maybe they would have been real, just in case, like, they wouldn't have been able to, just in case, like, kind of a backup plan, or just simultaneous plan, whatever the case may be. Because they had the defenses ready, a whole bunch of blasters ready to throw up the storms to kind of blow the balloons away. So there's that. Obviously, you have Rael being like, yo, like, where's Scylla? And Tally still hasn't said anything. It's like, my cousin's going, and it's like, and, Rael's like, Scylla as well, because she picks up the thing she had given her before they went to the wedding. So, because while they were dancing and everything, she was like, I want you to know I love you, no matter what happens. So, because she was supposed to drop her off at 6, but she didn't. So, either she got grabbed up by Anacostia, because it's like, oh, I know what you are all about. Like, we're going to pump you for information. Or, like, the people she worked, either she ran away and the people she worked for kind of got her, because it's like, right. She was supposed to meet them at the beach at like 6. You didn't show up, and it's like, that's going to be bad for you. Could be either or. And I'm curious, if that's the case, like, if Anacostia has her, is it going to be a thing of Tally don't say anything to Rael, just kind of let her continue believing what she's going to believe? Because that's going to cause some issues, too, because Abigail's going to be like, wait, my cousin was killed by these people, and you've been sleeping with one the entire time. It's like, I didn't see her for what she was. None of us did. So, but still, it's going to make Rael feel a certain way. It's definitely going to probably make Abigail feel a certain way, so that's definitely going to be interesting. So another thing I should also note about this episode, too, is that Rael did have a conversation with Petra, because I believe that's Abigail's mom's name, about Willa. And so it's kind of like, yeah, I just want to have a it's like, and she was like, your mom was the best medic. Like, everyone wanted to work with her. And the fact of the matter is, I heard that, you tried to save a boy's life. I wish your mom was here. I think she'd be very proud of you. And she's like, yeah, I wish my mom was here too. And kind of walks away. And the look on Petra's face is a thing where it's like, maybe she did make mistakes. And even if she didn't, like, maybe it's a thing. Maybe that's supposed to be. I mean, maybe that's why Petra strives to push Abigail so hard, because she made mistakes. It's like, it's not like, she was completely careless, but it's like, for her, it's like, I wasn't calculating for everything, and I made a mistake and people die. And so she wants Abigail to be perfect. I want you to be at the top of your game so you never have to go through that. It's going to happen, but I want you to mitigate it as much as possible, So maybe that's an element to it, or maybe it is just kind of a guilt thing of like, yeah, I am responsible, whether it's really true or whether it's just a personal guilt that she holds within herself for feeling like that. Because she even said it, once again, like last episode, about like she said, like, yeah, she's not the only one that feels that way, that Rael feels like, oh, like, I'm the reason why her mother got killed. It's like, yeah, she's not the only one that feels that way. So there's that. And there was also the conversation with that other general, because Anacostia was kind of nearby, like either reading their lips or just kind of hearing the conversation, was about them not liking this way. Because obviously it's the lady who lost her daughter back in episode 3, or was that 2? It's already blurring together. Who recently lost her daughter. It's like, right, she's not handling herself the best. Like, Sarah's not leading them the right way when it comes to against the spree. She's not making the right movements. So, obviously, because the general had brought up, like, that particular cell last episode. I forgot to bring it up. I'm assuming that's the one where that other, like, general's, like, person's, like, daughter died. So maybe that's what she was kind of referencing, and Sarah's like, how do you know about that? Like, maybe that's all the stuff that went down in Kiev. Like, maybe that's what that was. Maybe it was something else. But whatever it was, like, Sarah immediately shot it down. So there's going to be a little ascension amongst the ranks, because some people are going to believe they can do it a lot better than Sarah, because she's not going for the jugular like she should. We should be doing anything and everything to get results. Because they're not playing by the rules, why should we? But I think Sarah's trying to prevent them from going down that road, because it's like, it's a slippery slope of like, if we stoop down to their level, there might not be any redeeming ourselves. We might not be able to recognize who we are at the end of all of this. Maybe not. A lot of stuff to keep in mind. I'm really interested to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and good